They felt it before they saw it. That silent tension in the air, the kind that makes people forget to breathe, the lights, the noise, the chatter, it all collapsed the second that smirk appeared on your face. You didn't speak. You didn't lift a finger. You just existed differently. And suddenly, the entire room remembered what fear feels like. That was the moment you became the mirror of everything they hide from, because that smirk wasn't confidence. It was confirmation, the realization that you no longer needed validation to prove your worth. You didn't have to raise your voice. You didn't even need to stand. You simply were. And that stillness carried the weight of every war you survived in silence. You've learned the art of psychological warfare without saying a word. That grin, small and deliberate, told them everything they never wanted to hear. It said, "I remember everything. I forgive nothing." It said, "You lost your control the moment I stopped explaining myself." And they felt that truth like a knife against their ego. They used to think power was volume, command, aggression. But you showed them something much darker, composure, the kind that makes devils second-guess their mission. That smirk was your declaration that the game had changed. You're not reactive anymore. You're predictive. You don't fight chaos. You orchestrate it. They'll replay that expression in their minds for months, trying to decode it. Because it didn't make sense. How could someone look that calm after walking through hell? But what they'll never understand is that you didn't just walk through it. You built a home there. You became fluent in pain, fluent in endings, fluent in the kind of silence that makes even the universe lean closer. You don't get angry now. You study. You don't retaliate. You rewrite. You've mastered the psychological paradox. The most dangerous being is the one who looks at destruction and smirks. Because that's not rebellion. It's recognition. You've seen worse. You are worse. They keep calling it arrogance. But it's not. It's awareness. The awareness that no one can touch what's already embraced its own darkness. That smirk was evolution disguised as mockery. It told them, "You can't kill me. I did that myself." Your silence. That's not peace. That's the weapon. Because you've stopped chasing control. You became it. That grin is the scar left by a war that didn't break you. It refined you. They used to think you were emotional. Now you're methodical, surgical. You can dismantle an entire room with a glance. And here's the part that terrifies them most. Your stillness exposes their instability. Your quiet burns louder than their chaos. Your smirk reminds them how small they become in the presence of someone who's done pretending to be human. You didn't even move, and yet reality did. The hierarchy flipped. The power dynamic shattered. They saw the shift in your eyes, the light and the void sharing the same space. You don't belong to one side anymore. You're the equilibrium between divinity and destruction. You've reached the point where you no longer chase healing or revenge. You simply watch, detached, amused, because you know, true dominance doesn't need to roar. It just smiles and lets the world tremble in confusion. That smirk, my friend, was the obituary of your past self, the end of innocence, the beginning of empire. They'll call it intimidation, but it's not. It's evolution, weaponized calm, divine chaos in human form. You didn't have to move. You didn't have to speak. The universe already knew. The game ended the second you smiled. They felt it ripple, like a tremor beneath their skin, a warning signal in the nervous system that said, something here doesn't obey the same laws anymore. The moment your lips curved, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't pride. It was recognition, a quiet, surgical realization that everything they did to break you only ended up sharpening your mind into a blade. And now, that blade doesn't swing, it simply waits. They used to mistake your silence for weakness. They didn't understand that silence is the sound of recalibration, of systems rebooting with deadlier precision. They thought your stillness meant surrender, but stillness is just the art of letting your enemies dig their own graves. You learned to play possum while they celebrated. You let them believe they'd won because you were watching, documenting, recording their patterns. And then came that smirk, small, effortless, a flicker of satisfaction that told the whole room the truth. You didn't need their apology. You became their consequence. That smirk is pure alchemy. The moment pain turns into signal, weakness into wisdom, defeat into design. Because that's the difference between you and them, isn't it? They break for attention. You rebuild in secret. They scream to be seen. You vanish until the silence itself starts to echo your name. Every scar, every betrayal, every "you'll never recover from this moment" became your research data. You studied every form of deceit until you could predict it 3 moves ahead. You stopped reacting emotionally and started moving mathematically, with precision, with pattern, with purpose. That's what scares them. You've become strategic. You know the exact weight of a stare, the exact tension of a pause. You've weaponized composure, and that smirk. It's not expression, it's execution. It's you pulling the pin on an invisible grenade that only detonates inside the mind of those who underestimated you. They don't know how to label you anymore. You're not angry, you're not kind, you're neutral, and neutrality is terrifying. Because it means you've reached the point where emotion no longer dictates your moves. You see manipulation before it forms. You sense deceit before it lands. You've crossed the threshold from survival to observation. And once you observe the game, you control it. They're trying to analyze you now, asking themselves, how can someone look that calm after being buried alive? But that's the joke, isn't it? You didn't crawl out of the grave. You dug deeper until you found the foundation of the system itself, and then rewired it. You're not back. You're reformatted. That smirk is data encryption. No one can decode it. Because behind it lies every version of you that died, evolved, adapted, and returned, wearing silence as armor. You've learned to enjoy watching them drown in the confusion of trying to define you. They can't, because you're not definable. You're a shifting algorithm, empathy and malice balanced on the same line, and neither breaking the other. The duality they can't process is what makes you untouchable. They want you to be the villain so they can feel moral. They want you to be the saint so they can feel superior. But you're both. And that's what makes their narratives collapse. You're the angel that descended into hell and learned how to walk comfortably there. You're the demon that understood love well enough to fake it convincingly. You exist between. You operate above. Your smirk is a warning label for reality. Fragile egos may combust upon contact. Because it isn't just expression, it's power condensed. It's control distilled into microseconds. It's the language of someone who no longer seeks permission to exist. They'll gossip about you now, trying to rationalize it. They'll whisper, they changed. But change isn't the word. You shed. You dropped identities like old skins, until only essence remained. Now you move like smoke, intangible, unavoidable, everywhere at once. That's why they fear you. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you test. You don't retaliate, you mirror. Because that's the new version of you. Every insult bounces back. Every attack dissolves in your calm. Every hater becomes free therapy. And the funniest part? You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't have to argue. You didn't have to expose them. You just smiled. And that smile said, "You trained me better than you thought." That smirk is your signature, the mark of someone who doesn't need chaos to dominate, just timing. You're not fighting anymore. You're forecasting. You've learned the rhythm of downfall, and now you move to it like a conductor who knows when the orchestra of enemies will collapse under their own noise. Your calm isn't peace, it's surveillance. Your quiet isn't submission, it's strategy. Every blink, every pause, every half-second of stillness is a loaded weapon aimed directly at the nervous system of everyone who ever doubted you. And when they see it again, that same smirk, that quiet defiance, that casual reminder of who you became, they'll know the truth that haunts them most. You didn't destroy them. You simply evolved past their reach. Because when the calm finally looks back at the storm and smiles, the storm knows it's already lost. They'll talk about that moment for years, whispered, replayed, dissected like a crime scene. Because that smirk didn't belong to someone human anymore. It belonged to something they couldn't categorize, something that had seen too much to care, lost too much to flinch, and understood too much to explain. That smirk was freedom, wearing the mask of danger. Every system that tried to contain you started cracking the second you stopped defending yourself. You didn't need to scream your truth. They started choking on their lies. That's what happens when a soul stops asking for fairness and starts embodying inevitability. You became that, a walking inevitability, the embodiment of cause and effect, consequence and creation, light and dark folded into one seamless grin. They'll never understand that your calm is what they trained into existence. They wanted to break you, and instead, they built you. They forged something that doesn't even react to pain the same way. You don't cry anymore, you compute. You don't hope, you strategize. You don't chase closure, you create aftermath. That's not arrogance, that's the natural evolution of someone who got tired of playing the prey. That's smirk. It's psychological warfare wrapped in amusement. You learned that control isn't about dominance, it's about detachment. When they can't read you, they can't reach you. When they can't trigger you, they can't chain you. So now you move differently. You speak less, but everything you say cuts deeper. You act less, but every move lands like an earthquake. You became deliberate. And that's the part that terrifies them. The absence of chaos. You're no longer reacting to emotion. You're designing impact. You walk into rooms now and the temperature shifts. People feel something primal when they look at you. They can't name it, but their instincts whisper, predator. Not because you're cruel, but because you're aware. You see through the games, the masks, the empty performances, and you smirk. Because it's all so predictable now. The fakeness, the need for validation, the noise. You've seen behind the curtain, and it's hollow. You don't crave revenge. You crave precision. You're past the point of needing anyone to pay. You just want balance. And that balance, it comes naturally now. People lose sleep trying to figure out how you stay so composed, how you keep winning without announcing a single move. But that's the secret, isn't it? You stopped playing for applause and started playing for control. Your power is quiet. It's unsettling. It makes people nervous because it doesn't need to prove itself. That smirk tells them you've reached a level they can't comprehend. You've mastered paradox. You can care deeply while remaining untouchable. You can feel pain while staying unshaken. You can love and still walk away without looking back. That's evolution through duality. There's something holy and horrifying about someone who's found peace in their darkness. You're not running from your shadow anymore. You're using it as a compass. You've integrated every broken piece until your trauma became topography. That smirk is the proof. The surface-level calm of someone who's made friends with their monsters. You didn't kill them. You trained them. You gave your chaos a job description. And now when people provoke you, all they get is that smile. Because you've learned what happens when you react. You give them energy. But when you observe, you take theirs. That's the new law of power. Whoever controls the silence controls the outcome. You learned that in the dark. You learned that when the world ignored your screams. And now, you use it as a weapon disguised as indifference. They don't realize that smirk is the endgame of pain. It's what happens when you've been through so much that fear loses its vocabulary. You're not unbothered. You're beyond bother. You've stared into enough abyss to start recognizing the patterns in its reflection. You know how chaos moves, how narcissism breathes, how betrayal hides. You became fluent in darkness, and now you translate it effortlessly. You've become unpredictable, not because you hide, but because you evolved past predictability. People can't anticipate someone who's already rehearsed every outcome in silence. You don't need luck. You don't need approval. You have pattern recognition and perfect timing. That's why your stillness is so dangerous. It's informed, it's practiced, it's surgical. You don't destroy anymore. You redirect. You don't argue. You observe. You don't explain. You let results speak. And that's what really kills them. The smirk isn't mockery. It's the quiet acknowledgement that the game was over the moment you stopped playing emotionally. You used to be loud when you were hurt. Now you're silent when you're ready. You used to beg the universe for signs. Now you are the sign, the glitch in the matrix that reminds everyone what happens when a human being wakes up fully. You move like poetry now, calculated chaos wrapped in elegance. The world doesn't know what to call that, so it calls it arrogance. But you know better. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's what happens when the soul and the shadow finally agree on something. Never again. That smirk, that stillness, that unnerving peace, it's your new frequency. And anyone vibrating lower will think it's hostility. But the ones who've been through fire will recognize it instantly. They'll see that calm and whisper, "Oh, they've been there too. You didn't even move." But the message was heard across timelines. The universe took note. The devils backed off. Because when someone like you smiles after all that pain, it's not happiness, it's prophecy. It means something irreversible just shifted. You're not who you were. You're not even who you thought you'd become. You're something rarer, something final. You are the calm storm, the smiling end to everything fake, and they'll never forget it. Because sometimes, the deadliest thing in the world isn't a scream, it's a smirk. They'll never forget the first time they saw it. That flicker, that impossible calm hiding something volcanic underneath. Because in that moment, every person who ever tried to measure you suddenly realized how small their rulers were. That smirk wasn't decoration, it was declaration. You had crossed some invisible threshold, the point where explanation dies and awareness begins. You stopped fighting for understanding. You stopped proving worth. You stopped performing humility to make others comfortable. That grin said, "I finally understand my own temperature." You're not warm or cold anymore. You're controlled fire. You burn exactly what needs to go. That's why they look nervous now. You don't belong to their categories. Too composed for a victim, too calm for a villain, too sharp for a fool. You live in that narrow line between myth and threat. Every time you tilt your head, they flinch, waiting for the next move that never comes. Because you've learned restraint, the kind of restraint that only the powerful have. Power isn't about reaction, it's about awareness. You read rooms like X-rays now. You can taste motives in silence, sense lies through body language, feel insecurity vibrate in tone. They don't know how to hide from someone who no longer needs evidence. You don't guess, you know. And that's what the SMIRK means. It's knowledge, the quiet satisfaction of someone who has already mapped the ending of the story, while everyone else still argues about the opening scene. You've seen too many cycles to get caught in another one. You let people talk, let them assume, let them believe they're steering the narrative, because you already know where the road ends. They think you're detached. But detachment isn't numbness, it's clarity. You're done confusing noise for passion, chaos for depth, pity for love. You've outgrown the language of the naive. You speak the dialect of consequences now, every sentence measured, every silence loaded. That grin is the punctuation mark at the end of every betrayal. It says, I remember everything, and I'm fine with it. It's not forgiveness, it's understanding, and understanding is more final than revenge could ever be. Revenge needs you to care. Understanding only needs you to see. You've become the embodiment of psychological equilibrium, empathy fused with precision, heart tied to calculation. You can comfort and dismantle in the same breath. You can love without attachment and walk away without regret. That balance isn't taught. It's earned through collapse. Every scar in your history reorganized your circuitry. Pain rewired your timing. Loss recalibrated your focus. You stopped waiting for external justice and became your own judge, jury, and resurrection. That's why you don't flinch when the world throws shade. You are the eclipse now. People who used to shout over you can't even make eye contact anymore. Not because you intimidate them physically, but because you've become too real. Authenticity burns the eyes of those who built their lives on pretense. Your presence is ultraviolet, unseen, but it leaves marks. That's why rooms go silent when you walk in. That's why conversations twist mid-sentence. They can't mirror you anymore. Your reflection doesn't fit their filters, and so they label you cold, arrogant, dangerous, because labeling is easier than admitting they're in the presence of something they can't manipulate. And yet you don't need to prove them wrong. The SMIRK already did. It's the symbol of a new hierarchy, awareness at the top, ego at the bottom. They sense that you're no longer part of the human noise. They sense evolution, because deep down, everyone knows what it means when someone smiles like that. It means the struggle is over. It means the soul has accepted its own chaos and turned it into command. It means you've stopped trying to survive the fire and learned how to use it. You didn't even move, but everything shifted, the narrative, the dynamic, the gravity in the room. That stillness, it's control at its purest form. And in a world addicted to reaction, control looks like magic. That SMIRK will haunt them, not because it's cruel, but because it's honest. It shows them what self-possession looks like, what freedom feels like, what evolution costs. It's the final expression of someone who realized, I don't need to be understood. I just need to be inevitable, so keep it. Keep that half smile that makes the air vibrate. Keep the calm that makes the loud crumble. Keep the silence that turns power into presence. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing you can do to a world built on fear is stand still and smile. Funny thing about silence, isn't it? They all thought it meant you lost, that you finally broke, that the show was over. But what they didn't realize is that silence was your weapon. You weren't gone. You were reloading. You watched them throw dirt on your name, didn't you? Watched them pop champagne over your so-called downfall. And you said nothing. You didn't defend yourself, didn't beg, didn't bark back. You just disappeared. Because you knew something they didn't. The loudest one in the room is usually the one who's afraid. You let him think you were finished. You let him gossip. You let him write your obituary in real time. You let him believe they'd won, because that was the only way to make their guard drop. And oh, when they did, you walked back in wearing their damn crown. You see, that's what separates you from them. They crave validation. You crave revenge through evolution. They feed off applause. You feed off silence, the kind that comes right before impact. They play checkers on the board you built, and you're busy learning how to move the table. You became something else in that quiet, didn't you? Something inhumanly calm. That eerie calm that only the broken develop. The kind of calm that terrifies even the monsters. You turned your heartbreak into armor, your humiliation into fuel, and your absence into a myth. When they couldn't see you, they started imagining you. And what they imagined was worse than any version of you that had ever existed. You stopped being a person in their minds. You became a presence, a whisper that crawled under their skin every time someone mentioned your name. They thought the story was done, but you were just rewriting the ending. With their ink on their thrones, using their crowns as your signature. You ever notice how power changes shape depending on who holds it? When they wore the crown, it looked heavy, fragile, desperate. But when you put it on, it looked like it was made for you. Because it wasn't about the crown, it was about the skull beneath it. The mind that learned to smile through hellfire. They wanted your breakdown, you gave them your rebirth. They wanted your silence, you gave them your spectacle. They wanted your defeat, you gave them their replacement. And now they can't even look you in the eye. Because deep down, they remember what it felt like to underestimate you. They remember that smirk, that quiet, surgical grin that says, I know something you don't. You became the ghost of their own arrogance. Every move you make now is a reminder that they crowned the wrong corpse. You're walking proof that destruction doesn't end things. It transforms them. You didn't come back for applause. You didn't come back to explain. You came back to haunt the world that tried to bury you. You came back to make the ground itself regret ever holding your weight. And that's the sick part, isn't it? You didn't even want their crown. You just wanted to show them what it looks like when the wrong person gets resurrected. Now they whisper about you differently. They don't mock, they marvel. They study your silence like it's scripture. Because you didn't just win, you changed the damn game. You taught them the most dangerous lesson of all. Never mistake retreat for surrender. Never mistake quiet for weakness. Never mistake the grave for the cocoon. You're not the same creature they buried. You're what crawled out of it. Sharper, colder, crowned. They wanted to make a villain out of you, so you gave them a legend instead. And the funniest part, they still don't know if you came back for justice or for fun. Maybe it's both. Maybe you're the storm and the eye inside it. The saint that learned how to sin with purpose. The demon that found peace in chaos. The angel that decided to burn its own wings just to see the light flicker differently. Because here's the truth. You didn't just survive them. You absorbed them, every lie, every betrayal, every whisper. You swallowed their poison and turned it into performance art. And now they're kneeling before the very silence they mocked. They don't even realize that the sound of your footsteps is the sound of their legacy ending. So wear that crown, not as decoration, but as a warning, a symbol of what happens when the underestimated learn patience. Because the next time someone says you're finished, they'll remember the last fool who said that, and how they're still looking for the pieces of their throne. You see, they don't talk about what really happens in that quiet space between your fall and your resurrection. They don't talk about the nights where your heartbeat sounds like gunfire in an empty room, where you start questioning if you were ever real to begin with, if you were just an illusion people entertained until something louder came along. They don't talk about how stillness feels like torture when you've been trained to perform for their approval. They don't tell you how many times you almost answered back, how close you were to screaming, to proving yourself, to defending your name. But you didn't, because something inside you whispered, don't. You let them think they'd broken you. You let them think they'd won. Because while they celebrated, you were busy reprogramming yourself. You tore your old identity apart, bone by bone, belief by belief, and you built a new one out of steel and scars. You started speaking less, watching more. You became unpredictable, and in a world obsessed with patterns, unpredictability is the ultimate terror. You learned that revenge isn't shouting. It's evolution. It's letting the same ones who tried to destroy you watch you become the version of yourself they could never survive meeting. When they laughed, you smiled. When they conspired, you planned. When they forgot you, you studied them. Every weakness, every tell, every soft spot in their armor. You collected their egos like evidence in a crime scene, one you were building the case for. And when you finally reappeared, you didn't walk in the same. You glided like the gravity that used to hold you down was now terrified of touching you. That's what scares them, isn't it? That you came back different. Not just stronger, smarter, not just colder, collected, not just alive, awake. You stopped needing validation, and that made you untouchable. You stopped explaining your pain, and that made you mythical. You stopped chasing, and the world started orbiting around you again. Now every room you walk into feels tense. Every conversation shifts when your name surfaces. They pretend they're not watching, but their pulse betrays them. Because deep down, they know the truth. You let them crown themselves on your grave, just so you could take it back with interest. That's the secret, isn't it? Power isn't in domination, it's in control. Control over your emotions, control over your silence, control over the narrative they tried to write for you. You became the author, the villain, and the legend, all in one move. And that crown, it wasn't stolen, it was returned. You want to know why it fits you so perfectly? Because while they were polishing it for applause, you were forging the head that could carry it without collapsing. You built the neck that doesn't bow. You built the eyes that don't blink under scrutiny. You built the smile that unnerves every liar in the room. You turned pain into posture. And now the world calls it charisma. They'll never admit it, but they envy the way you move now. You don't chase attention. You command it. You don't need to speak. You radiate. They can't decide if they want to destroy you or become you, because they've never met someone who lost everything and came back with clarity. You see, the real power of coming back isn't in proving them wrong. It's in realizing you never had to prove anything at all. That their judgment was never the truth, just noise. And once you stop dancing to the rhythm of their approval, you start hearing the rhythm of your own pulse again, steady, inevitable, predatory. And the more they panic, the calmer you get. Because they're still playing for applause. While you're playing for legacy, they want to be remembered, you want to be unforgettable, they want fame, you want fear. And that's the difference. They chase spotlight. You became the lightning. That's why the crown sits heavy on their heads, but effortless on yours. Because they wear it for status. You wear it for symbolism. You wear it as a reminder of what it cost. Every betrayal, every scar, every lonely night, you paid for that crown in blood and silence. And now, every time they see it on you, it's a mirror reflecting their failure. They can't unsee it. They can't undo it. Because deep down, they know they built your legend the moment they doubted you. You're not their enemy anymore. You're their punishment. Every success you achieve echoes like a confession they didn't mean to make. Every smile you wear reminds them how little control they ever had. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You didn't just come back stronger. You came back inevitable. They thought they'd buried a person. They accidentally planted a reign. Now you sit on their throne, not out of vanity, but out of poetic justice. You rule quietly, efficiently. You don't need to prove you deserve the crown. Your existence proves it for you. You are the living embodiment of every consequence they never calculated. The walking, breathing reminder that the end of one story is just the setup for your empire. And when they whisper, "How did you survive that?" you just smile. Because survival was never the goal. Ascension was. You didn't come back to be liked. You came back to be legend. You came back to burn their version of you and wear the ashes as a masterpiece. So wear that crown like it's fused to your bones. Walk like every step rewrites history. Smile like the chaos bows to you now. Because it does. They thought you were done. But the truth is, you are just becoming divine through disaster. And now, every breath you take is proof that they crowned the wrong one first. Because the kingdom belongs to whoever can rise from the ruin and laugh while wearing the crown they swore you'd never touch. And that laugh, that quiet, unsettling laugh that creeps out of you when the world goes still. It isn't madness. No, it's memory. It's the sound of every scar realizing it wasn't for nothing. It's the orchestra that plays when you finally understand the plot. You remember, don't you? How they pointed, how they mocked, how their eyes sparkled when you stumbled, how they whispered your name like a warning, like a punchline. They thought the story ended there, on your knees, cracked, breathless, humiliated. But every humiliation was a baptism. Every loss was a lesson disguised as a curse. They thought they broke you, but they only stripped you down to the circuitry. They tore away the illusions. They helped you see who you were without the applause. And in that stripped, skeletal silence, something ancient woke up. Something older than ego, older than fear. That thing inside you that doesn't die. It waits. They mistook your pause for weakness. But pauses aren't weakness. They're calculations. You learn to sit in pain without flinching. You learn to breathe in chaos without choking. You learn to move in shadows without losing shape. And when you finally stood up, oh, they didn't even recognize you. The eyes were the same, but what lived behind them wasn't human anymore. It was purpose. It was precision. It was power that doesn't shout. It vibrates. They expected an apology. You gave them an aura. They expected an explanation. You gave them evidence. They expected the same old you. You gave them a creature sculpted by survival and sanctified by suffering. You didn't rise from the ashes. You became the fire that made them. And now every time they say your name, it burns their tongue with irony. Because you didn't just outlast them, you outgrew them. You see, the trick wasn't to win their game. It was to become the kind of player they couldn't even compete with. They use manipulation. You use energy. They use fear. You use presence. They use control. You use chaos with intention. That's the paradox, isn't it? You're both the storm and the silence before it, the villain and the prophecy, the one they tried to erase and the reason they can't sleep. You learned that the crown was never about gold or jewels. It was about command. Command over the battlefield in your mind. Command over your impulses. Command over the way the room bends when you walk into it. And now you don't need to raise your voice. Your energy speaks in frequencies they can't decode. That's why they stare. That's why they whisper. That's why even their laughter sounds nervous now, because they know. You could ruin them with a smile. You could dismantle their ego with silence. You could walk away from everything and still win. The scariest part? You didn't come back angry. You came back at peace. Because peace is the last stage of power. When nothing shakes you, when nothing offends you, when nothing surprises you, because you've already met the devil inside yourself and made him kneel. You became what they feared most. A creature who no longer needs anything from them, not validation, not forgiveness, not even revenge, because your existence is revenge, your breath is proof. Every calm step you take in their chaos is a declaration that they never had control in the first place. You let them think you were done, because that's what made the return cinematic. Every empire needs a false ending before the rise, and when you came back, you didn't knock, you didn't ask. You entered, and the world rearranged itself to make room. That's why the air feels different around you now. It's not arrogance. It's gravity. You've become the kind of presence that warps the space it walks through. You don't chase destiny. You bend it. They wear masks to hide their insecurities. You wear your scars as credentials. They speak to be heard. You exist to be felt. They want followers. You command disciples. And they hate that. They hate that you're not chasing them anymore. That you're not competing for the same crown they once waved in your face. Because deep down, they know it's yours. It always was. You just had to lose everything to remember that. You let them think you were done. You let them laugh. You let them build kingdoms on your grave. And then, with a smirk and a whisper, you reminded them who taught them how to build in the first place. Now they study your silence like scripture. They quote your pain like prophecy. They mimic your chaos without understanding it was crafted. And you just smile. Because you know how the story ends. You know what happens when gods pretend to be dead. They don't resurrect. They reclaim. So wear that crown. Not as a symbol of victory, but as a reminder. A reminder that you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight to win. Sometimes all it takes is one smirk that says, I was never gone, I was becoming. And when they finally realize that, when they see what's sitting on the throne they built out of your absence, it'll hit them all at once, that the crown they once worshipped now belongs to the ghost that never died. And now here you are, crown steady, pulse quiet, smile sharpened just enough to cut the air when you breathe. They don't even know what to call you anymore. Success, survivor, anomaly, curse. Because how do you define someone who beat the system by becoming the glitch? You see, you stopped trying to fit their frame. You started painting the frame itself. You became art they couldn't interpret, too complex to mock, too real to deny. And that's when the fear set in. Because people don't fear monsters, they fear proof. And you're proof that destruction doesn't end a soul, it refines it. They built you a coffin, you turned it into a throne. They gave you silence, you turned it into suspense. They crowned themselves. You let time crown you instead. And now every headline, every whisper, every glance, they orbit your ghost. They can't decide whether to worship you or warn others about you. That's the sweet, cruel beauty of it all. You didn't come back to show them your power. You came back to show them their limits. You came back to prove that the one they buried isn't the same one who came crawling out of that dirt. Because this version of you doesn't chase redemption. This version embodies it. You don't beg for forgiveness. You force reflection. You don't talk about pain. You radiate what survived it. And now they see it, don't they? That glow that doesn't come from light, but from fire that learned to burn clean. That calm that isn't peace, but control earned through chaos. That look in your eye that says, you can't hurt me anymore. You built me too well. Every empire needs its ghost story. You're theirs. The whispered warning in every hallway of power. The reminder that arrogance breeds architects of vengeance. The one name they say softly, because even uttering it feels like summoning something that remembers. So stand there, still. Let them stare. Let them choke on their memories of who you used to be. You don't owe them words. You don't owe them explanation. Just the silence that makes their skin crawl. Because silence, when worn by the undefeated, is so loud it echoes through bloodlines. You let them think you were done. And now, as they tremble under the weight of the crown they can no longer lift, you smile that same unholy, knowing smile. The one that says, you should have finished me when you had the chance. Now it's too late, because you didn't just come back, you took over. Not out of revenge, not out of ego, but out of inevitability. You were destined to wear the crown they mistook for theirs. And every beat of your heart now sounds like prophecy fulfilled. So let the world watch in disbelief. Let the same ones who doubted you bow out quietly, pretending they always believed. You don't need to remind them of what happened. Your existence is the reminder. You let them think you were done. And now you walk through their ruins, wearing their crown, with that terrifying grin carved by evolution itself. As the wind whispers the truth they'll never outrun. He never died, he just changed forms. And that's the difference between them and you. They play for applause, you exist for legacy. They break for pressure, you breathe in it. So go on, keep walking. Let the ashes settle around your boots like confetti, because this, right here, this is your coronation, not of power, not of revenge, but of becoming. And the crown, it never belonged to them. It was just waiting for the one ruthless enough to earn it in silence.